Squaddies? Hello and welcome to my channel today. Let's ask ourselves, why did a listener feel the need to thank Vanessa Feltz simply for not attacking Prince Harry and Meghan Markle? Why has basic neutrality become something that stands out? And what does that reveal about how deeply negative Sussex coverage has been normalised inside British media? This short radio exchange accidentally exposed far more than Vanessa probably intended. So subscribe if you are Sussexes fan.
Hi, Non. Thanks for ringing.
Hi, can I just say how refreshing the show is today? And
Yes.
in the past couple of days, we're not discussing the Sussexes. No
Exactly.
one's discussing the Sussexes.
Thank you.
And Vanessa, you're not on your bench, let's say, criticizing the Sussexes. So it's a lovely show to hear.
Excuse me, criticising
Yes,
the
yes, I'm
Sussexes?
sorry.
That's not me.
Yes, we're
that
moving
guy,
on.
what's that guy
We're
called?
moving on.
Hang on, Enon, listen. You know that guy who the Sussexes usually give all the stories to, and he always writes about them. What's his name?
With the dark hair.
Yes, with the dark hair. That guy.
Yes, Scobie, Obi.
Exactly,
You know,
Omid Scobie. That Omid Scobie.
Omid
You know him?
Scobie.
Yeah, Enon, he once actually sent me a message to say that my coverage of the Sussexes was incredibly balanced and Meghan had been delighted, Enon. So that's not fair.
That's a surprise.
Yeah,
but
it's
anyway,
true though, I promise.
Yes, I did. I did think I'm on the side of banning skirts because, as you
On a routine radio phone-in, a listener named Michelle called Vanessa Feltz's show, not to argue, but to express her gratitude. What prompted this thank you? Simply that Vanessa hadn't joined in the usual attacks on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. In today's British media, relentless negativity toward the Sussexes is so common that neutrality itself feels remarkable. Michelle's relief was telling. She wasn't applauding a standout interview, but the simple absence of hostility. This gratitude for basic fairness reveals just how normalized negative coverage has become. Michelle's call was more than a thank you. It was a quiet protest against the constant barrage of criticism. For listeners like her, tuning in often means bracing for yet another wave of contempt. So when a broadcaster simply chose not to pile on, it felt almost radical. This brief exchange exposed more than Vanessa likely intended. It highlighted just how deeply aggression has been woven into media conversations about Harry and Meghan. Neutrality, once expected, now stands out as an act of quiet defiance. Audiences aren't just absorbing the coverage, they're noticing the patterns and feeling the weight of it. When they finally encounter a rare moment of calm, it's powerful enough to move them to call in and say thank you. In that moment, the silence revealed more about the media climate than any words could. Why should neutrality be so surprising? Because the public now expects bias as standard. The anti-Sussex narrative is so relentless that any deviation feels like a plot twist. Michelle's call wasn't just praise. It was a diagnosis of a media environment gone off balance. We've been conditioned to anticipate attacks to the point where fairness feels shocking. When a presenter simply avoids the usual tropes, it disrupts the feedback loop. In a world where hostility is routine, the absence of it is mistaken for support. Michelle's thank you was more than a compliment. It was a subtle accusation. Thank you for not just completely laying into Harry and Meghan, she said, highlighting the usual media pile-on. Her words acknowledged a pattern, relentless negativity, recycled criticisms, and predictable outrage. The compliment was a protest against this status quo. Years of negative coverage have trained audiences to expect the worst. They know the script, the guests, the conclusions before the show even starts. Michelle's call recognised this ritual, and Vanessa's neutrality was a rare break in the cycle. It wasn't about one segment, but about a media diet saturated with criticism. The audience isn't passive. They're watching, judging, and sometimes thanking those who break the mould. Michelle's call was a small act of rebellion. Vanessa Feltz's reaction was telling. She became defensive, insisting, "Well, I don't think I ever have." Instead of accepting the compliment, she distanced herself from the implication of bias. A truly neutral presenter might have simply said, "Thank you, we strive for fairness." Her defensiveness suggested the compliment struck a nerve, hinting at an uncomfortable truth about the industry. Michelle wasn't accusing Vanessa personally, but describing a toxic media environment. By taking it personally, Vanessa shifted the focus from systemic issues to her own record. This is a common response. Media figures often retreat behind professional indignation when objectivity is questioned. The listener's compliment was a reflection of audience experience, not a personal attack. A curious journalist might have explored why neutrality feels so rare. Instead, Vanessa closed ranks, missing an opportunity for reflection. This instinct to defend, rather than listen, is why media bias persists. Michelle's perception wasn't irrational. It was shaped by relentless media repetition. The British press has mastered message discipline, revisiting the same anti-Sussex themes until they feel like truth. Headlines, commentary and panels all echo the same talking points, conditioning the public. The couple's desire for privacy is framed as hypocrisy, nuance ignored. The sheer volume of negativity becomes a cognitive shortcut for dismissal. Positive stories are minimized. Negative ones are amplified. This selective reporting distorts reality, making hostility feel justified. Michelle's surprise at neutrality is a direct result of this echo chamber. Her call was proof. The audience has internalized the narrative. Vanessa defended her fairness by citing praise from Omid Scobie, a journalist sympathetic to the Sussexes. But relying on second-hand, outdated validation is flimsy. Fairness isn't a one-time achievement, it's a daily practice. A vague compliment from the past doesn't address today's media climate. Invoking Scobie's name is a strategic move, but it highlights the polarized landscape. True fairness is shown in consistent, balanced coverage, not in borrowed praise. The caller was talking about a pervasive pattern now, not a compliment from years ago. Vanessa's defense missed the point. Fairness must be current and visible. The British media claims balance, but the Harry and Meghan saga exposes the gap between promise and practice. Balance often means giving equal airtime to critics, creating a false equivalence. This isn't neutrality, it's a performance that reinforces negativity. Editorial choices, language, tone, guest selection shape perception more than facts. The illusion of balance masks a deeply biased narrative. Audiences recognize this theatrical exercise for what it is. The media claims to reflect controversy, but often it manufactures it. When coverage is so one-sided, the promise of neutrality becomes transparent. Media narratives are constructed through deliberate framing and selective voices. The dominant frame for Harry and Meghan is conflict and betrayal, casting them as antagonists. Royal experts and critics are given authority, while sympathetic or nuanced voices are sidelined. Language matters, Terms like Megxit or bombshell interview prime audiences for conflict. The presenter's tone can shape opinion more than facts. This subtle, constant negativity conditions the audience to expect hostility. The Sussexes have described this environment, and the public's expectations confirm it. The audience has felt the effects. They know what to expect. Michelle's call is evidence. The narrative conditioning is real. Michelle's call was about more than one presenter. It was a snapshot of a systemic media problem. Fairness should be so normal it goes unnoticed, not so rare it elicits gratitude. The media's relentless narrative repetition shapes public consciousness. This isn't about demanding positive coverage, but about proportionality and context. The issue isn't Vanessa, it's the entire system. For audiences, moments like this validate their perceptions. The bias is real. For Harry and Meghan, it's proof that not everyone buys the negative narrative. The goal should be to make calls like Michelle's obsolete. Fairness should be the norm. This radio exchange was an unexpected audit of the media, revealing how predictable negativity has become. When simple fairness is shocking, it's time for the industry to reflect and change.